So good evening. I'm Aubrey Merriman. I'm the CEO of LifeMoves, a tipping point grantee. And I'm a hopeaholic. Now, before you roll your eyes, reach for another sip of your drink, let me tell you, it wasn't always this way. I grew up in a community called Little Burgundy in Montreal. It was one of the poorest neighborhoods in Canada. I'm a child of Guyanese immigrants, the ninth of 10 kids. Yeah, we did practice birth control. My parents were in Guyana during a time of political unrest, and they couldn't leave the country for 5 years. So it's a long story of how things unfolded. But in the end, my siblings and I were essentially in Canada, raising each other, doing what we could to make it work. Looking back now, at the times my sisters took us camping in a friend's backyard, when in reality, we were evicted a lot. Or eating and sleeping on the cold floor, when in reality, what little furniture we did have was repossessed. And always wondering if we were going to even have a floor to sleep on the next day. I began to understand how poverty shaped my childhood. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that might be going through your head right now. One, yes, there are black people in Canada. Two, French was my first language. Three, hockey is and still my first sports love. And the fourth one is, yes, I do kind of feel like Janet Jackson with this thing on. So now that we've cleared that off your mind. So the level of resourcefulness and grit and courage that my older sisters had to show at a young age to keep our family together, like registering us as foster children. Yeah, you heard me right. Putting us in the foster care system so we can survive astounds me. My siblings did what they could to shield me. But growing up in an environment that was plagued with crime, substance abuse, mental illness, food and housing insecurity, all the things that conspire to make poverty what it is. It festers inside of you. And in my case, I'm going to go to the corners here, I developed a severe stuttering problem. And remember, I grew up in Montreal, where you had to speak both French and English. So maybe the silver lining is that at least I can stutter in 2 languages. Anyway, I didn't put that on my resume subsequently. I didn't think it was a skill set that would give me a competitive advantage. But school became a nightmare. The teachers knew who I was before I even walked in the door. I got labeled a troublemaker, a label that I lived up to because I was frustrated. I had a lot to say, but I just couldn't say it. I also remember every day it started with a game of me playing hide and seek with trouble and danger. And one day I was out on the basketball court shooting some hoops with my friends. I was shooting hoops, I'm not sure what they were doing. And then a reporter shows up, and he starts talking to us, and we're flattered by the attention. He's a smooth talker, but we're also young and naive. Then he starts taking pictures, and we're thinking, we're gonna have to get an agent, because we're about to be famous. And a few days later, the article comes out with this headline, Pattern of Poverty. And they have a photo of my mug dribbling a basketball right above the headline. So there I was, the poster child for poverty, literally. And let me tell you, as a young person, when the stigma of poverty, when it's thrown at you over and over and over again, it demoralizes you. And it doesn't take a front page headline to do it. Poverty breeds hopelessness. I was fortunate to have people in my life who were in my corner. As part of our involvement in the foster care system, we were connected to resources that helped us put food on the table. My case manager arranged for me to have a speech therapist and enroll me in after-school programs so I can engage in school again. High school teachers, mentors, and coaches encouraged me to pursue higher education. I'm a product of those interventions. Thank you. I'm a product of the right people in my life at the right time. And with that support, I began to feel less hopeless and more hopeful. I was able to secure a college scholarship with a little help from my basketball skills. Now, come on, admit it. I know you all saw those raw and remarkable skill sets captured in that photo. And let me tell you, the older I get, the better I was. And up here, I'm a Hall of Famer, top 3 all time. Top 3 all time. After college, I got my master's, and I got a job working with young people whose life experiences were much like mine. Eventually, work and family brought me to the Bay Area, a place I've now called home for over 2 decades. At LifeMoves, I get the privilege of leading an organization that works to bring stability to people hardest hit by poverty. The headlines about me tell a little bit of a different story now. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. You are too kind, but keep going. But let's be clear. What a cooperative audience. I love this. Same time tomorrow? But let's be clear. There's nothing special or unique about my story. It's simply through organizations very much like the ones Tipping Point funds and like the one I now lead that I was able to access opportunities that basically changed the trajectory of my life. Those opportunities and the fact that I can be a part of creating those very same opportunities for others is what brings me before you tonight as an unapologetic hopeaholic. Check this out, though. There's a whole playbook to being a hopeaholic. And if you find me later tonight, I'll be happy to share it with you. But there's one key that I want to make sure you leave with. It's this. Success leaves clues. I'll say it again. Success leaves clues. When we try new things, we sometimes fail, and we sometimes succeed. Let's take note of both. And even when everything feels urgent and on fire, we must have the courage to pause and measure our results. It's the only way we get better. And like a pro athlete, our job is to watch the tape and look for clues to up our game. The good news is there are so many clues, so many examples of what we need to do more of. Far too often, we get stuck bickering about one intervention versus the other. Regional versus local, upstream versus downstream. It can be easy to forget who we're really fighting for. And we're fighting for folks like Timothy and the people that Timothy is going to be helping once he becomes a kick-butt case manager. And that's what I love about Tipping Point. As a CEO, I've never been pushed into a one-size-fits-all framework. And that allows me to look for clues, regardless of where they show up. And speaking of showing up, you're here tonight because to me it means that you've been searching for those clues too. And because deep down inside, if you're honest, there's a little bit of a hopeaholic in you too. And we know, to be real, it's going to take a hell of a lot of work. But the solutions that we're looking for, the successes that we're in search of, are right here, in this room, in this region, in this place that we all call home.